Soarin's bodycam mod, a legendary mutator that aims to replicate the camera movement of a real-life bodycam. Though obviously not perfect, it certainly adds a level of immersion and difficulty to gunfights that is unprecedented in Ravenfield. Easily one of my favorite mods from the workshop, and while simple on the surface for what it offers, what the mod actually does is a little deeper. Jumping right into it, this mod offers a lot of customization, which can be a little daunting, but don't worry, I'm here to explain it. To start, you have the camera POV's physical location, controlled by X, Y, and height position, which move the camera side to side, forward or backwards, and up and down, respectively. These are pretty straightforward, and I'll touch on their importance later with some popular presets. Lock camera to center. This toggle seems obvious, but might be counterintuitive to what you actually want. When untoggled, the camera stays in the center view, no matter where you are aiming. But when toggled to lock the camera to center, the camera will always shift to where you are looking. To better explain this, take note of the border. Untoggled, it stays center, it doesn't move when you are looking around. When toggled, it adapts and moves to where you go. The main reason for this feature is to prevent getting too disoriented, but it does come at the cost of limiting visual movement in the true, quote-unquote, body cam feel. Speaking of the border though, you can turn that on and off with the body cam overlay toggle, which is cool if you want more realistic movement versus a camera lens. Next we have a toggle bodycam key, which does as states, allows you to have the bodycam on or off mid-game. Then we have the intensities, walk bob and run bob, both of which, in my opinion, are way too high on defaults. I think it comes down to preference, but I typically have mine around 0.10 and 0.35, though it might take some experimenting for what you're most comfortable with. The lower, the smoother. For disableable options, you have tilting and gun tuck, both of which are pretty minimal. Tilting is simply that slight sloping effect when moving left or right, and gun tuck is an automatic movement that prevents you from firing when too close to an object. Both are nice additions for realism, so I see no real reason to turn them off, but you can if you want. Then we have zoom with any weapons. This pretty much means that if a gun had a zoom function when ADS, then it doesn't zoom. If realism is your goal, this is a great feature to have off, since in bodycam footage, and real life for that matter, iron sights don't magnify when you aim, so having that removed can add a lot of immersion. This, however, doesn't apply for true scoped weapons, which will still scope in. For camera borders FOV, this adjusts the border's perceived FOV, not your actual FOV. At the default at 70, the border is pretty non-intrusive, but at higher FOVs, it makes your view much more narrow. Next, we have the clamps. Weapon roll clamp, which adds a fluid tilt to your gun when swaying. As you aim, you'll notice the gun tilts left or right, versus at 0, there's no angular tilt at all. Camera roll clamp, from what I can tell, is basically the same effect on the weapon, but for your camera as well. Lastly is a dead zone clamp, which, again from what I can tell, increases or decreases the sort of invisible box for how far your gun can swing. At 0, it looks like your normal gun movement where your sights are exactly where you move them to, and at default, you get a little bit more reach. I believe this works better with lock camera to center toggled, which at 100, you can pretty much aim off screen. This effect is also what makes using snipers so unique with this mod, which makes your scope move around when ADS, which is both incredibly annoying and challenging at the same time. And lastly, walk tilt to mount, which is what was possible to disable earlier. It's pretty much that left to right unevenness intensity when using A or D key. And that about wraps up the customizable features of this mod. So, what can you do to get the most out of this mutator? Well, if you're lazy like me, the default settings, minus a bit of the bob intensity, are already pretty well set up, especially if a bodycam style FOV is your goal. Other than that, the big items to change are whether or not you like the overlay, locking to center, or exclusion of some of the clamps entirely. But if you do want better presets, there's a few I'd recommend. That would of course be a helmet cam preset, which is one of my favorites. Super fun for close quarters, and you've probably seen this preset before in my videos. I just really like how it feels, and it's cool that you can ADS without actually seeing down sights. Once you get the hang of it, it makes for some awesome CQB moments. There's also the torso preset, which is fairly hard to use and only really works with some guns, but can be really fun once you have the technique down. Definitely gets you closer to a true body cam and a more unique perspective. I'm not sure what to call this, but I made my own left-handed torso/gun cam preset, which I've been really enjoying. This preset tries its best to follow the gun's movement and give a more intimate view of the gun, especially with some reloads. It doesn't work perfectly with every gun, but it is great for close quarters and walking focused gameplay. If moving the camera isn't really your thing, then there's also the Insurgency Preset, which emulates Insurgency camera movement. Fairly normal, but stands as a nice upgrade from the static default view and a great mod if you're familiar with the Insurgency style gun movement. Those are some of the main applications of this mod, and man can it be a lot of fun to use. This video stands as an overview, so if bodycam is your thing, I highly recommend checking out Uncapped Raven. He's got some great videos of bodycam gameplay, as well as how to get that more realistic Ravenfield experience. Anyways, I'd say that about covers it. This video isn't the most inspired, and I'm mainly doing this topic because my other project is taking way longer than it needs to, so hopefully that can come out next week. But hey, not every video needs to be groundbreaking. Sometimes it's nice to go over something simple, but effective. Till next time, peace.